Beyond the daily walk, a gynecologist's 5 essential habits for women over 60. Have you ever been told that if you simply maintain a routine of walking every day after the age of 60, you will successfully stay healthy and strong? It is one of those timeless pieces of advice that we have all heard repeated for decades. Simple, seemingly safe, and undeniably reassuring. And yes, let me be clear, walking does indeed have wonderful and undeniable benefits. It serves to clear the mind, it keeps the blood flowing, and it provides us with that essential sense of being active. But what if I were to tell you that walking on its own might not be the golden ticket to aging well that you believe it to be? In fact, for a great many women, relying solely on accumulating steps could actually be leaving your body weaker, stiffer, and more vulnerable than you realize. I cannot tell you how many times I have had women sit across from me in my office, their faces beaming with a proud smile. They will say, "Dr. Stones, I never miss my morning walk. I consistently hit 6,000, sometimes even 7,000 steps a day, and I always take a moment to celebrate that incredible commitment with them." But then just a few months later, those very same women often return to my office with puzzled expressions and a new collection of aching joints. Their knees have begun to complain. Their sense of balance feels shaky and unreliable. Their backs feel tighter, not loose, and they invariably ask me the same poignant question: how can this possibly be happening when I have been so remarkably consistent? Here is the unvarnished truth. Relying only on walking is like trying to build a healthy diet by eating only one type of food, day after day. Is that one food, let's say an apple, good for you? Absolutely. But if you never consume any protein, healthy fats, or other essential vitamins, your body will slowly and inevitably weaken, no matter how faithfully you eat that apple. Your body, after the age of 60, is like that complex dietary need. Walking is a wonderful source of cardiovascular health, but it is not the whole picture. After menopause, your body requires more than just repetitive, forward-moving steps. It desperately needs strong muscles to protect your bones, flexible joints to keep you moving with freedom, a good sense of balance to prevent dangerous falls, and a stable, engaged core to support your posture and even the quality of your breathing. If any single one of these crucial elements is neglected, walking alone will not save you. In fact, it may quietly steer you toward the very state of fragility that you are hoping so earnestly to avoid. I am Dr. Stones, a gynecologist who has dedicated over 30 years of my life to helping women just like you move through the transitions of menopause and beyond with enduring health and profound dignity. And I want to share something with you that I have learned from decades of listening to my patients. Aging well is not about the sheer number of steps you take. It is about how complete and varied your movement is. Walking is a wonderful beginning, but it is only the beginning. That is precisely why, in this video, I am going to show you 5 doctor-backed habits that go far beyond just walking. These simple, accessible practices are designed to protect your muscles, your balance, your joints, and your precious independence. They are not complicated, and they do not require any fancy or expensive equipment. Most of them can be done right in the comfort of your own home in just a few minutes each day. But the impact they can have, it can be absolutely life-changing. And here is a little secret. The very last tip I will share with you is the one that so many women overlook, yet it may very well be the most powerful factor in determining how gracefully you age. Please stay with me until the very end, you will not want to miss it. But before we dive in, I would love to know, is walking your primary form of exercise at this moment? Just type yes in the comments section below if it is. Sharing your story might just give another woman the courage and inspiration she needs to rethink her own routine. And I promise you, I read every single one. So let's get started. Let's look at why walking is a wonderful but ultimately incomplete practice, and let's discover the missing pieces that will help you to stay vibrant, independent, and full of energy at every age. So let's talk about what truly happens when walking is the only form of exercise that you consistently rely upon. At first, it certainly feels like the safest and most prudent choice. You are moving your body, you are enjoying the outdoors, and perhaps you are even chatting with a friend or a neighbor. But over time, certain significant gaps in your physical fitness begin to emerge, and they can often take you by surprise. One of the very biggest of these is muscle loss. Many women hold the belief that as long as they walk every single day, their muscles must be strong. But the act of walking does not actually challenge the key muscle groups that are essential for keeping you independent, the ones that allow you to rise gracefully from a chair, to carry your own groceries, or to lift a beloved grandchild into your arms. After menopause, a silent process known as sarcopenia, or age-related muscle loss, begins. The National Institutes of Health tells us that women can lose between 1 to 2% of their total muscle mass every single year after the age of 60 if nothing is actively done to counteract it. Think about that for a moment. It may not sound like a significant amount, but over the course of a decade, that adds up to a very real and tangible weakness. I often think of Janet, a vibrant 68-year-old woman who walked faithfully every single morning. But one day, as she bent down to pick up her granddaughter, her back gave out. She looked at me, completely bewildered, because she genuinely thought she had been keeping herself active. The truth was, her daily walks had never done anything to strengthen her core or her gluteal muscles. Without any form of resistance, her body had slowly, imperceptibly, lost its protective armor. Another hidden risk is a decline in balance. Most women simply assume that their sense of balance will remain with them indefinitely. After all, you have been walking for your entire life, so why should that ability suddenly fade? But balance is not an automatic function, it is a highly refined skill. And just like any other skill, it begins to diminish when we stop actively practicing it. Here is something that many people do not realize. Falls are the #1 reason that women over the age of 70 are hospitalized, not any specific illness. That single sobering fact alone should make us all pause. I will never forget Maria, a 74-year-old retired nurse. She told me that she had nearly fallen while simply stepping off a curb, her heart racing as her body hesitated for just a fraction of a second. It was not a weakness in her legs that caused the incident, it was the fact that her balance reflexes were beginning to slow down. That single near miss terrified her more than any ache or pain ever had. And then there is the issue of flexibility and mobility. Walking is, by its very nature, a straight-line movement, one foot placed in front of the other over and over again. It does not stretch your shoulders, it does not rotate your spine, and it does not open your hips. But real life requires all of those things. Turning to grab something from the back seat of your car, reaching for an item on a high shelf, or bending down to tie a shoe. When those multi-directional motions begin to disappear from our daily lives, a pervasive stiffness inevitably creeps in. Elaine, aged 72, came to me feeling old, not because of any specific pain, but because she could no longer tend to her beloved garden. She could not comfortably squat down to the ground, and she could not twist her torso without discomfort. Her joints were not broken, they were simply profoundly underused. And finally, let's talk about the health of your joints. Walking is often advertised as the ultimate low-impact exercise, and yes, it is certainly gentler on the body than running. But over time, the act of walking on hard pavement with the exact same repetitive motion, day after day, can place a significant amount of strain on your knees, your hips, and your ankles, especially if your surrounding muscles are not strong enough to properly absorb the impact. Think of it as being like a finely crafted piece of machinery that is only ever used in one single motion. Every repetition adds more wear and tear to the same specific parts, until suddenly, something breaks down. That is precisely what happens when the cartilage in our joints slowly thins, or when a persistent pain sets in after years of what we thought were healthy daily walks. So here is the uncomfortable but necessary truth. Walking alone does not protect you from muscle loss. It does not sharpen your sense of balance. It does not keep your joints safe from repetitive strain, and it does not make you more flexible. In fact, it may be quietly leading you toward the very things you are trying so desperately to avoid: weakness, stiffness, and fragility. The wonderful news, however, is that none of these risks are permanent. They can all be effectively addressed, often with very simple adjustments that you can make right in your own home. In the next part, I will share some practical, doctor-backed solutions, small, realistic habits that will complement your walking routine and effectively fill in those critical gaps. You will learn how just 10 minutes of the right kind of exercise can help you to stand taller, to move with greater confidence, and to even protect you from devastating falls. And the third solution I am going to share with you may come as a surprise. Most women have never been told about it, but it just might be the missing piece that changes everything about how well you age. Before we go on, let me ask you, have you noticed that despite walking on a daily basis, you still feel stiff, unsteady, or achy in your joints? If so, you are most certainly not alone. Please share your story in the comments. I can almost guarantee that another woman will read it and think to herself, "That's me too." And sometimes, simply realizing that we are not alone is the very first step toward making a positive change. So how do we effectively fill in these gaps? If walking by itself is not enough, what else does your body truly need after the age of 60? The answer is not nearly as complicated as you might think. In fact, the very best solutions are simple. They are low cost, and they are surprisingly easy to begin. Let me walk you through them one by one. The first essential piece of the puzzle is strength. Think of your muscles as the sturdy framework that holds up an entire building. Without a strong framework, the entire structure becomes fragile and vulnerable to collapse. After menopause, our muscle mass naturally begins to decline, and that decline can accelerate with every passing year. But here is the wonderfully hopeful news. Your muscles can and will respond to exercise at any age. I have personally seen women in their 70s and even their 80s successfully rebuild their strength with just a few minutes of dedicated resistance work each week. You do not need heavy weights or an expensive gym membership. Start small. Practice standing up from a chair without using your hands. Hold a can of soup in each hand and perform some gentle bicep curls, or try doing some wall push-ups while you are waiting for your tea to steep. One of my patients, Helen, aged 72, began with nothing more than the simple act of sitting down and standing up from a sturdy chair 10 times each morning. Within just 6 weeks, she felt noticeably steadier on her feet, she was more confident, and she even noticed that she could open tight jars again. Something she had not been able to do in years. That is the incredible power of strength. The second piece is balance. Walking moves your body forward, but it does not effectively train your inner ear, your ankle stabilizer muscles, or your proprioceptive sense of where your body is in space. Your sense of balance is much like a fire alarm in your home. You do not really notice it until it fails, and by then the damage may already be done. But here is the hopeful truth. Your balance can be trained, just like any other skill. Start by simply standing on one foot near a countertop for support. If you feel steady, try closing your eyes and notice how dramatically different it feels. Practice walking in a straight line, heel to toe across the room, or try stepping sideways while lightly touching the wall for stability. David, a 75-year-old retired bus driver, told me that he began doing just 3 minutes of simple balance drills every single morning. Within a few weeks, he had completely stopped reaching for pieces of furniture as he walked around his house. That small, consistent change gave him back a sense of personal freedom that he had thought was gone forever. The third piece is flexibility and mobility. Life does not happen in straight, forward-moving lines. You have to twist, you have to bend, you have to reach, and you have to stretch every single day. If you do not keep your joints moving in all of these different directions, they will slowly begin to lock up. And when they do, simple, everyday tasks like looking over your shoulder while you are driving or bending down to tie your shoes can begin to feel utterly impossible. The fix is not complicated. Practice gentle neck rotations while you are seated. Sweep your arms overhead in a slow, deliberate circle. Twist your torso gently in a chair, or reach down toward your toes while you are breathing deeply. Marlene, aged 78, came to me feeling deeply frustrated that she could no longer tend to her garden because of her pervasive stiffness. Her physical therapist gave her a simple series of daily mobility exercises, and within just 1 month, she was back in her flower beds, happily digging in the dirt. Sometimes all your body is asking for is a little bit of variety. The fourth piece is your core and your posture. The act of walking does not do very much for the deep, intrinsic muscles that are responsible for keeping you upright and stable. After the age of 60, if your core begins to weaken, your posture can start to collapse. You may notice your shoulders rounding forward, your lower back beginning to ache, and your breathing becoming more shallow. Think of your core as the central pillar of a grand structure. If that central pillar begins to crack, the entire house will start to shift and become unstable. But even just a few minutes of dedicated practice each day can help to reset it. Try standing with your heels, your hips, and your head pressed gently against a wall for 2 minutes. Practice breathing deeply while you consciously tighten your lower abdomen, or try tilting your pelvis gently forward and backward while you are sitting in a chair. Leonard, a 76-year-old former engineer, once told me that these tiny daily drills had managed to reduce his chronic back pain by more than half. He also noticed that he was able to breathe more deeply, something he had not even realized he was missing. And finally, let's talk about protecting your joints. Walking is indeed healthy, but the repetitive motion on hard surfaces can, over time, grind down the cartilage in your knees and your hips. What your joints truly crave is variety and support. That might mean trading 1 or 2 of your weekly walking sessions for some gentle water aerobics. a chair yoga class, or some time spent cycling on a recumbent bike. Even the practice of Tai Chi, a beautiful and flowing martial art, has been shown in studies from the Mayo Clinic to significantly improve balance and reduce the stress placed on your joints. Malcolm, aged 79, who had been a lifelong hiker, discovered that by replacing just 2 of his weekly walks with some simple pool exercises, the persistent swelling in his knees finally eased, and he was able to enjoy his walks again without a sense of dread. Joint care is not about doing less, it is about doing smarter. The inherent beauty of all of these practices is that they do not require hours and hours of your day. Just 10 to 15 minutes, performed 2 or 3 times a week, can be enough to make a truly measurable difference. Strength, balance, flexibility, posture, and joint care, together, they form the crucial missing pieces that the act of walking alone can never provide. So here is my question for you. If you had to choose just one of these areas to start with today, which one would it be? Would it be strength, balance, flexibility, posture, or joint protection? Please share your choice in the comments below. Not only will it help you to commit to your goal, but your choice might just inspire another woman who is watching this right now to take her very first step too. When I think about the many women who have courageously embraced these changes, I am constantly reminded of just how powerful even the smallest of shifts can be. Allow me to share a few more stories with you, because sometimes hearing how someone else has successfully transformed can make us truly believe that we can too. Helen, the 72-year-old woman I mentioned earlier, used to walk 5,000 steps every single morning. She was incredibly disciplined and consistent. But then her knee buckled one afternoon as she was trying to carry a simple bag of groceries. That single scare completely shook her confidence. When her doctor suggested that she add some strength training to her routine, she hesitated. She said, "Dr. Stones, I am just not the gym type. I don't want to lift heavy weights or look ridiculous." But we started small, with simple wall push-ups, bodyweight squats performed while she was brushing her teeth, and lifting small water bottles. Within just 6 weeks, she called me laughing with pure joy, because she had been able to open a stubborn pickle jar for the first time in years. That may sound like a very small victory, but to Helen it was a powerful symbol of her independence. She realized that her body could still respond, that it could still grow stronger, even in her 70s. Marlene, at the age of 78, had thought her gardening days were completely over. Her back had become stiff, her hips felt locked, and she had simply assumed that this was an unavoidable part of old age. When she began to practice some gentle daily mobility drills, spinal twists, arm sweeps, and neck rotations, she discovered something truly remarkable. Within just 1 month, she was not just moving more easily, she was back on her knees in her flower beds, happily planting her tomatoes. I will never forget the incredible sparkle in her eyes when she told me, "I thought my garden was lost to me forever. Now it feels like I have gotten a significant part of my life back." And then there is Leonard, aged 76, who had prided himself on standing tall his entire life. Slowly but surely though, his posture had begun to crumble. His shoulders were rounding forward, his breathing had grown shallow, and he found himself constantly leaning on the counter when he was cooking. His daughter noticed the change and gently pushed him to see a movement specialist. With some simple daily posture resets, standing against a wall, practicing deep, diaphragmatic breathing, and tilting his pelvis gently each evening, Leonard experienced a truly dramatic change. Within a matter of weeks, his chronic back pain had eased by more than half, and he told me that he could take much deeper breaths. He even joked that he was able to sing louder in his church choir again. What had changed was not just the alignment of his spine, it was his profound sense of personal dignity, of standing tall in the world. And finally, Malcolm, the lifelong hiker who so loved his daily 3-mile walks, found himself limping with painfully swollen knees. He had come to believe that this was simply the inevitable cost of aging. But by swapping just 2 of his weekly walks for some aquatic exercise and a chair yoga class, the swelling in his knees completely subsided, and he was once again able to look forward to his walks without a sense of dread. He told me, "For the first time in years, I don't hear my joints constantly complaining." These stories all have one very important thing in common. None of these remarkable patients made massive, overwhelming changes to their lives. They did not spend hours upon hours in the gym, nor did they completely overhaul their entire existence. They simply made small, consistent, and targeted adjustments, just 10 or 15 minutes here and there, that completely rewrote the story of their aging process. Think of it in this way: Imagine your body is a magnificent complex tapestry. Walking is like a single beautiful thread. It is essential and it adds to the overall picture, but it is not the entire tapestry. Without the strong threads of strength, the colorful threads of flexibility, the intricate patterns of balance, and the deep, foundational weave of good posture, the tapestry is thin and incomplete. But when all of these different threads are woven together, the tapestry of your life becomes rich, powerful, and truly harmonious. That is what a complete movement practice does for your body. Too many women assume that aging is like a steady downhill slope, that once you start losing your strength or your balance, it is all just a process of decline. But the truth is much closer to that of a garden. If you continue to tend to it with dedicated care, watering, fertilizing, and pruning, it will flourish again and again, season after season. Your body is that garden. It responds directly to what you give it, whether you are 60, 70, or even 80 years old. So if you have been thinking to yourself, "It's too late for me," I truly want you to hear this. It is never too late. I have personally seen women in their 80s successfully build muscle, regain their balance, and rediscover simple joys they thought were gone forever. And the very moment that you start, even with the smallest of exercises, you have effectively told your body, "I still believe in you." And I promise you, your body will answer back. In the next section, I will bring everything together, the powerful lessons from these stories, the science that stands behind them, and a clear roadmap that you can begin to follow. We will recap the key strategies, and more importantly, I will leave you with a hopeful and empowering vision of what the aging process can look like when you give your body the complete and comprehensive care that it so richly deserves. But before we continue, I want to ask you, which of these inspiring stories resonated with you the most? Was it Helen with her pickle jar, Marlene with her garden, Leonard standing taller, or Malcolm finding joy in his walks again? Please share it in the comments. Sometimes one person's story of transformation can be the very thing that lights the spark for another. Now that we have walked through these powerful stories and the science that underpins them, let's bring it all together. Walking is a beautiful and beneficial habit. It clears your mind, it strengthens your heart, and it gives a wonderful rhythm to your days. But it is not the whole picture. Relying solely on accumulating steps does not build the essential muscle mass that protects your independence. It does not sharpen your sense of balance, which is arguably the single most important defense you have against debilitating falls. It does not stretch and rotate your body in the myriad of ways that real life requires. And it does not protect your joints from the cumulative wear and tear of repetitive impact. What your body truly and desperately needs after the age of 60 is a much fuller and more complete spectrum of movement. Strength training, even in its gentlest forms, preserves your muscle mass and actively prevents the onset of sarcopenia. Balance drills sharpen your reflexes and provide you with a sense of confidence with every single step you take. Flexibility and mobility work keep your body supple, so that simple daily tasks do not become insurmountable obstacles. Core and posture training serve to reset the very foundation of your body, helping you to breathe more deeply and to stand tall in the world. And incorporating joint-friendly alternatives to your walking routine gives you a much-needed variety, so that you can continue to enjoy your walks without experiencing pain or fear. Think back to the remarkable men and women we spoke about today. Helen rediscovered her personal independence with just a few minutes of dedicated strength training. Marlene was able to reclaim her beloved garden through the practice of daily mobility work. Leonard found his sense of dignity again by simply standing taller as a result of his posture exercises. And Malcolm was able to restore his joy for walking by giving his joints a much-needed break with some gentle water exercise. None of them managed to reverse the flow of time, but they all proved that even the smallest, most consistent of steps can fundamentally change the way we age. And here is what I truly want you to remember. For the most part, aging is not a steady and inevitable decline. It is a dynamic process of adaptation. Your body is always listening to what you give it. When you offer it variety, when you offer it support, and when you offer it a gentle challenge, it responds with an incredible degree of resilience. At 70, at 80, and even beyond, your body still has the capacity to surprise you. So I invite you now to reflect. Which of these 5 crucial areas will you choose to focus on first? Will it be building your strength, sharpening your balance, stretching for greater flexibility, resetting your posture, or protecting your joints? Please write your answer in the comments below. Your decision just might be the very thing that inspires another woman who is watching right now, someone who just needs a little bit of a gentle nudge to begin. And if this video has spoken to you, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to this channel, and share it with a friend or a sister who might need this encouragement. Together, we are building a vibrant community of women over 60 who believe in aging not just longer but stronger and more gracefully. Imagine yourself just 1 year from now, moving with a greater sense of ease, carrying your groceries without a moment of hesitation, bending down to play with your grandchildren, walking without any pain, and standing taller with a newfound sense of confidence. That future is absolutely possible, and it begins not with a massive and overwhelming overhaul of your life, but with one small intentional choice that you make today. I'm Dr. Lily Stones, and I thank you for your time. And before we close, let me remind you this video is for educational purposes only. It does not replace medical advice. Every woman's body is unique. If you are experiencing pain, significant changes, or have personal concerns, please consult with your healthcare provider. Your well-being deserves personalized care.